Yesterday I was cutting hair, right? So I was cutting hair, then I was on the phone with a contractor to repair a cooker hob.
Yeah.
Then another contractor to repair some electrical stuff. Then the hairstylist asked me, hey Jason, 你是 contractor 来的
Hi everyone, welcome to Takeaway with Avenue 88, where we share insights about the real estate market in Singapore. So in the past, we always talk about buying and selling for our past videos, And today we are going to talk about the leasing part of this business. And let's talk about rental.
Which is quite a big bulk of business in Singapore also, just that it's probably not so much people talking about it.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So even though like CEA has very clear guideline about the rental process, and then actually there's a proper standard TA by CA also.
TA
But
meaning
then all
tenancy
the
agreement.
all the different agency, we have our own versions of
Correct.
it.
Yes, correct.
And actually there is always a lot of dispute in rental process.
Correct.
And personally, I've seen like landlord and tenant going to small claim courts at least 3 times in my career.
Not bad. No?
Okay.
Good experience.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
So this is issues arising from tenancy is rather common. Today we are going to discuss about the issues, but not just issues. We are going to talk about some stories and also case studies where we have actually encountered and come across, and what the learning outcomes that we get from all these.
So actually in this rental podcast, right, what we want to do is that to let everyone to understand the whole rental process and then how to avoid the dispute, the unnecessary dispute.
Correct.
Yes, correct.
And also probably more about the background of how renters are from the start to end.
Yeah.
I personally do a lot of renters a year, so I also actually encountered a lot of DIY landlords and tenants, right? Going into issues because they really don't have an agent to guide them on this process.
Yes.
That's right.
So why not let's go into it. So for renters, obviously the first part is of course doing viewings. What I'm going to say is actually not a guideline kind of thing, because the guidelines don't really guide us on this. And I think it's very important for agents, right, who manages viewings to actually what we call qualifying tenants, because sometimes right, there are certain tenants that you yourself or even landlords don't want to be renting to them. What do I mean? I mean, I don't know whether you encountered this before, like tenants coming in, right? Then they start to scrutinize the house. They start to say, this house very old, this thing's not good, this one can change, that one can change. So these are actually signs that they are not easy tenants to deal with. And this is very important for us agents, right, to be able to judge this, because most of the time the landlords are not there for viewings. So actually, the viewing part and qualifying tenants is actually very important for agents' role in this kind of scenarios.
I mean, there's always different views from both sides, both parties. The landlord will always want to find a tenant that don't cause any issues along the way, prompt rental payment. For tenant-wise, they always want to find the best unit for them.
That's correct.
There's minimal defects, things that is suitable for them, for their daily use, for their family use or personal use. So both sides, I think they have different views on how they want to take the place. Yeah.
Actually, I do agree, because like, let's say for the agent's role, right, we are the pair of eyes for the landlord.
Yes,
because most of the time actually landlord won't be
Exactly.
there
That's
for
my
the
point.
viewing.
Yeah.
So actually, like what Jason mentioned, I think is true.
Yeah, but also sometimes we also, as much as we want to be qualifying this part, because I've actually encountered a case where the tenant is very nice, but during viewing everything is okay, very friendly to me. Then the issues only come after she rented the place. So, but at least we do our best to check.
Is it like straight after the handover?
Straight after the handover.
Really?
Like, during the day of handing over, right, she already started to say, hey, why this like that? Why is this not clean? Hey, this one can you help me repair? This like this.
So it happens
It happens,
They approach us in a very nice way that landlord accepted. Then once the tenancy is signed, they moved in. Then the face start to turn already. So all sorts of issues, even delaying rental payments. These kind of more serious issues we have to deal with.
So actually, but personally, I feel like for me, right, as long as the tenant is easy to like negotiate in terms of the terms, like tenancy start date or whatever defects, all these, they are okay, easy, reasonable. So I won't read too much into the person's like the character or like how are they like. I won't second guess them. So
different way of
so as long as they go by the book, like the LOI, the everything, and then the checklist, everything, they go smoothly with me. I think still okay. Yeah.
So I think what I want to share about these viewing things is that I think the agent's role is very important here, because to help to assess the tenant, very importantly, because the landlords are not around. And I think this is a very important step, because this is the start of the tenancy, not the end. So I think the agent's role is very important here, and landlords really have to get a competent agent.
Yeah.
And tenants actually should also get engaged an agent to actually represent them on these things also.
Not just on the marketing. When it comes to the viewing itself, to assess the tenant,
assessment and
what
all.
are the requirements, the requests,
Correct.
everything in place before you present it to the landlord for acceptance.
Correct.
Sure.
Okay, so for the next stage, we go into the guidelines for rental. If you all check the HDB and URA website, you would have known that for short-term leases, it's not very encouraged or legal in Singapore. For HDBs, for example, it's 6 months minimum lease. If you are local or Malaysian, you can actually rent for a maximum of 3 years. If you are a foreigner, non-Malaysian, the maximum is 2 years. And for private properties, the minimum lease is actually 3 months.
Yeah.
So just take note of
So
the
cannot do
leases.
Airbnb.
Yes,
Yeah, cannot do. And actually, I think you also experience a lot of tenants actually asking for very short-term lease.
Yes.
Like 1 month, 2 months. And
Yeah.
this is definitely against
A
the
big
law,
no-no.
that's
lah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Correct,
Go
correct.
for a service apartment. That will be
Correct.
the solution.
Yeah,
Correct. So Airbnb, all these like 1-2 day stay or even 1 week stay, all these
Yeah.
are not legal in Singapore.
Yeah.
And moving on, since we're on this same topic on the rental guidelines, right? There's this relatively new thing that has been come out in these last few months, which is what we call the foreign worker tenant enquiry system. In short, it's FWTES. So
Yeah.
some not very experienced agents or not as very experienced landlords always encounter this thing because the tenants needs to register their address with this MOM website.
Yeah.
So what's the background of this is that back then, right, there was don't have this system. So
Yeah.
actually there's a lot of tenants illegally registering address out there. So
Ghost tenant.
tenant, yeah, they just anyhow register a random address, right? And just
But
take
then
it
they
as
don't
an
stay
address.
there.
Yeah, they don't stay there.
Yeah.
So now MOM actually has this system to actually lock these things so that tenants cannot register their
Correct.
address there. So what's going to happen is that when the tenant needs to register, the landlord needs to unlock this system.
Need to so-called like approve, right?
Correct, yeah. Then after that, so that the tenant can apply. But something that I think most agents don't know or most landlords don't know, right? Actually, you can lock it back later on. A lot of landlords, they actually unlock it, but they forget to lock it back. So by locking it back, actually has some assurance. But
Yeah.
also there's this, which is good for MOM actually implementing, is that when you have workers registering your address, right, you actually be notified by SMS.
Yes.
So this is actually a very safe thing that allows landlords to protect their house
Yeah.
from illegal registration.
Actually, I think this is also to ensure the landlord know who are the people staying
Correct,
inside the
yeah.
house. Yeah, which is very important. Yeah. Then the next thing actually we can also touch on is about the maximum number of packs staying in the house.
Number of people and
Number of
occupants.
people. So I mean, all this while it has always been 6 packs
Correct.
for the private property. But then actually recently, not say recently URA actually extended it to 8 packs.
Yeah.
So this 8 packs is not a given thing also. You still need to log into URA website, sign in with your SingPass to give to apply for to 8 packs. Yeah, increase the head count to 8 packs. So what happened to those foreign owners who don't have SingPass? It's a little bit more troublesome.
Correct, yeah.
They will need to go and draft out a NOA, like notary, like a power of attorney, POA, to allow someone with a SingPass to go into URA to apply on behalf of them. So I think this is quite a troublesome thing.
Just for
foreign
foreign
owners.
for foreign owners. Yeah.
Okay, then we talk about the actual CA guidelines.
Yes.
Let's say you have a tenant that is going to move in. The validity checks are extremely important. So for foreign workers, you have you can go to MOM to do what we call a check the work pass, to check the work pass if it's valid, the expiry date.
Yeah.
Then you can also, because it's your job to also get the passes of the tenants and occupiers, then you need to scan using SG work pass.
Yes.
You're able to check the validity.
Yeah.
But I think what is okay, these checks are quite straightforward. What I encounter most of the time is the NRIC validity check, which you can only do on ICA website. For some reason, not every time, there's occasions where you actually enter the details, right? They will say that the NRIC is invalid one. I think it's a system glitch thing. I don't know whether you
Have you
encountered this
checked your
before.
own IC? Is it valid?
I checked mine, but there were occasions where I checked on my computer is invalid.
Huh, really?
But when I get my PA to check on her side, right, then it's valid.
So is it a cash thing?
I don't know whether it's
Never
maybe a
encountered
glitch
this
lah.
before.
Okay, but the
So,
thing
yeah.
is, actually sometimes when it's invalid, right, it's because the tenant actually sent us the old NRC. Which means that they have a, because sometimes people save their
They change
photo
the
on
IC, right?
Yeah, they change the IC, the validity, the registration, not
Yeah.
registration date, what's it called? The date of issue
Yes.
is different, right?
Yeah.
Then I think this will actually cause the NRC to be invalid.
Yeah.
So this is something that I mean agents out there and landlords have to take note to get the latest copy of the tenant's NRC.
So like WPSP and EP will be from MOM website.
MOM website.
Then
Therefore
if
NRC will be
NRC is for
ICA.
ICA.
Yeah.
Then how
NRC
about-
and student pass is for
Student
SCI.
pass, yeah. Dependent pass also ICA.
Correct, yeah.
Then okay, so like one thing about signing of tenancy, TA and all. So actually TA all these days actually we allow digital sign. It doesn't need to be ink sign.
Correct.
So I think it's good because actually a lot of foreign investors, right, homeowners, actually they prefer digital sign as well. So no need to courier the document. I remember before this happened last time, we still need to courier the TA.
Correct.
Right?
Wow.
They need to
Well,
sign
those were the
already.
days
then-
of it. Awesome. Yeah.
At
For
least-
wet ink signature, for the purpose of wet ink signature.
Before COVID.
Yeah, so during COVID, they actually already allow e-signature.
Yeah, they allow e-signature.
So signing of tenancy agreement, e-signature is fine.
Yeah.
But for sale, you still have to go through the wet ink signature.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
but one thing, actually for a tenancy agreement, if this rented house is like being sold, right? Sometimes the buyer's lawyer will ask for a in-sign tenancy agreement also. So actually we can always just sign again, ask the tenant and the landlord to sign again, which is okay lah. Yeah.
So actually, just a guide. If you know as a landlord or as an agent that you know that the owner is going to sell the house soon, it's really advisable to do wet ink signature.
Yeah, just do a
rather
wet
than do digital. Because I actually encountered a recent case where the tenant was kind of making things difficult not to sign again because he feels that why have I to do it, and he actually questioned our Singapore laws that why do I have to get that wet ink?
I think this one depends on the relationship between the
That's
landlord
true
and the
lah,
tenant,
correct.
right? If the tenant a bit besong the landlord, then maybe
So true, we thought there were some issues back
definitely,
then. That's why the
definitely.
tenant was making things a bit difficult.
Yeah.
And also, after talking about tenancy, so actually we need to do stamping, which is very important. And most people actually do not know that stamping actually makes the document legal. Because if you don't really stamp the document, which of course you can't, but if you don't stamp the document is
Cannot
not
bring
legal
to court.
and you cannot bring to court, correct?
Yeah, cannot
so
bring
a
to
lot
court.
of landlords think that, hey, after I sign or I get the deposit, it's kind of case closed.
It's to officiate the document.
Stamping is really very important to make the document legal per se. lah.
Yes.
And I also think that it's very important that for tenants especially or for landlords that when you take over the unit, it's very important to take the conditions of the unit.
Yeah.
So take photos, videos, have a good record.
So who take this condition report?
Okay, for me, actually for a landlord agent, I do take general photos of the unit.
Yeah.
But I do impose on the tenants, right, to take photos of the defects because
Yes.
it's tenants' responsibility to take note of the defects, not us. We don't want a case where we take a photo and the tenant just zoom in the photo and say it's there. So it starts to get a bit issue. So my take is that landlord's agent or landlords take general photos, defects photos to be exact, right? The exact photos are to be taken by the tenants.
True lah.
Yeah.
Because actually without this condition report, a lot of time I've seen many times, right, the tenant at the end of the list will say, oh, this scratch mark has been there since day
exactly.
one.
Then all the tenants like,
They start to
okay,
point
no
finger.
offense to tenants, but they like to say it was there before. No, this was there before. That was there before. So it's very common.
Yeah, this is very common.
Yeah.
So for this lease topic that we are discussing right now, we have already talked about the first stage, which is the viewing stage. Then the second stage, which Jackie and Jason both discussed, which is the signing of the tenancy agreement and also what are the things you need to take note.
processes.
Then now is the next stage whereby the tenant moves in. So under CEA guidelines, the role of agent actually ends when landlord and tenant sign the tenancy agreement, stamping is done, and handover of property.
That's correct.
Yes.
Yeah. So actually,
Does it include the handover? It includes the handover.
Include
right?
handover.
include
Yeah,
handover.
handover.
Yeah, include handover. So I know for me and for both of you, we extend our service beyond that
Yes.
out of
Yeah.
goodwill and good relationship with our clients. So during the course of lease all the way up to expiry, we are actually still there to help to manage the house. But while during this course, we of course will encounter issues, minor, major, or sometimes even go into very big disputes. So we
Yeah.
are going to talk about this right now. So Jackie, you have anything you want to share?
Okay, so like for me, I mean, like talking about rental issue, as of now, like now, right, I think I have 3 rental unit with aircon issue, like either leaking or the aircon is not cold, and then I think 2 more that washing machine broke down, and then there's leakage and all, and so rental is the kind of thing that you need to stay true. Your service was need to stay throughout for the lease period for sure. Yeah. So a lot of a lot of issues.
Actually, yesterday I was cutting hair, right? So
Yeah.
I was cutting hair, then I was on the phone with a contractor to repair a cooker hob.
Yeah.
Then another contractor to repair some electrical stuff. Then the hairstylist asked me, hey Jason, 你是 contractor 来的
Because of the conversation you are
Because of
having.
the conversation, I said, actually, no, I'm a real estate agent, and this is actually part of my service to actually help my clients.
Yeah.
To
Okay,
do
so
this thing.
we need to share a bit of context. Okay, why so? Is because actually a lot of landlord really trust us a lot, and then we take the responsibility to take care of all these issues,
Yeah.
rental issues for the landlord. Yeah.
Because also actually, I don't know about you all, but most of my landlords, they actually don't go into the investment houses one. So we actually have a better understanding of the house condition and the issues rather than my landlords. So my
Correct.
landlords say, okay, go get a contractor.
We have a
Go get
much
the job
bigger
done.
role to play besides just the marketing,
Yeah.
That's correct,
viewing, signing of documents. Right after we need to manage the tenant
Exactly.
after.
So,
they
so
moved
like
in.
actually, I have a landlord that I think she only saw the house when she first bought it. Like I think 13 years ago. Until now, she has not seen her place.
No, we had a client who has never seen the unit.
Oh yes. She
correct.
bought
At
without
Icon.
viewing.
Yeah, at Icon.
Icon.
Bought without viewing, and it's already 7-8 years now,
No,
right?
what is that? Hey, no, he bought I think 2010 or 11.
Yeah, never seen the unit before, but me and Jackie have been to the unit like multiple times to do the handover, takeover. So these are the extra, the service that we give to our clients during the course of lease, even up to expiry. So I think it's very important if, especially for agents, you don't really end your service to your clients
Correct.
upon signing of tenancy agreement and handover unit. It
And
goes
vice
really
versa,
beyond that,
you as a landlord out there, you also wouldn't want an agent to just really end their service at the end of the after handing over and just appearing at the end of the lease to come back into the picture. It's also unfair to a landlord. Although yes, I do admit that CA guidelines say so, but the service really makes you stand out from the rest of the agents.
True.
I mean, there are definitely issues, but it's how you manage them and how you are able to resolve them. So, I mean, if you are here in this business, these are things that we really need to face and we need to overcome. So, I think more importantly, priority is to maintain good relationship. And to extend this goodwill service to your clients, your landlords especially, so that, after that, your landlord appreciates you. Right after this tenant moves out, you are able to get the next tenant in for your landlord.
Sometimes the landlord don't even remember when is the lease ending.
They'll start to ask you these kind of questions. Hey, how much is my rental?
How much is my rental and all?
Yeah. So that just to say that after we have talked about these guidelines, right? I just wanted to share this very interesting thing about stories we encounter during our
The course of lease.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
So for me, I had one extremely interesting case. Tenants not paying rental is actually very normal. Okay,
Stop
say
paying
normal.
rental, delaying rental.
I say wrongly. Stop delaying rental. So I had this case. It's a HDB rental. It's a corridor unit. So it's kind of like we can go to the doorstep. So there's this tenant that after the first month advance rental, right? Second month stop not to pay rent already.
They didn't pay from second month onwards.
Second month was. So of course the natural thing is to go and ask the tenant. Then tenant start to give a lot of issues. Say, oh, I'm busy.
A lot of excuses.
A lot of excuses. I'm away, kind of thing. Then you drag. Then until there was a period of time.
Did you all visit the place?
Yeah, we visit the place. There were occasions that he's at home, occasions where he was not at home.
Okay.
So that we keep pursuing. We had to send letter of demand and everything, police case. Then we even terminated the SP services.
Oh.
Yeah, we terminated because it dragged about 2 months ago. Then
They allow you to terminate.
okay,
the
because
SP.
we actually knocked on the door and no one was staying in. So after that, we started to terminate because the landlord kind of like need to repossess the house and everything. So we actually terminated the SP services. Right? Then the interesting thing is that when we actually knock on the door, right, the tenant was still staying inside.
That means no electricity.
No electricity, no water. And
Do you
the
see a
tenant
lot
was
of candle and all?
so this was a very interesting thing. And for landlords out there, right, for a tenant.
No electricity, I understand. No water,
No
they can
water.
stay also.
I cannot
How
imagine
he
that.
flushed? How
Exactly.
he
So,
bathed?
Store pails of water.
so when we were there, right, the tenant opened the door because he was
Wow.
sleeping. Then he came out and said, "What are you doing?" So actually, that's to let landlords out there know, right, that when a tenant don't pay rent, right, the eviction process is really not easy.
It's very painful.
Yeah, a lot of agents think that based on the TA, when the renter is not paid, you can just open the door, but it's not as straightforward as it is.
It's a lot of time loss.
A lot of time
And
loss,
number one thing is you cannot just lock the door like that.
Exactly correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. You cannot lock. There's a lot of it's a silver case actually if you open the door and someone is inside.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of things that I think it's very important that you, if you have especially on the previous topic we're mentioning, that an agent to actually service your property, that actually guides you and actually assists you to do this and to link up with lawyers, legal side to mention about these things.
So Jackie, you have any interesting stories to share?
For me, okay, talking about rental, yes, I do lah. So I remember like there was this case whereby it's taking over. That means at the end of lease, landlord take over the lease, take over the unit, right? Then we realized actually the tenant didn't pay rent for the past 7 months.
Oh, there's something similar to this.
Okay, but this unit is at Scott Square lah. So it's one of the most prestigious one, CCR and all. Then the tenant is also someone who is quite
Of high level lah.
high level, yes, because he's like some governor's son or something like that in another country. So someone with very high profile.
Well, then why don't pay rent?
Huh?
Then why never pay rent?
Exactly. So actually, we didn't realize also.
Okay.
Until when we asked the landlord to return the deposit, then the landlord checked his own bank account. Then he realized, the tenant didn't pay, and then it's for like at least 7 months. And by then, actually, when I start to chase, right, the tenant really flew back to his own country.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Okay.
But luckily, I mean, he's still very steady lah. So he replied my email and said, yes, then so it's 7 months. Then he also apologized. So I think he has some glitch in his bank transfer. So for the 7 months, he also didn't realize. So I think
went through lah.
Yeah, I think maybe this is a rich man's problem lah. You know, like landlord didn't know that his account, the money didn't come in, and then the tenant also didn't realize the money got deducted or not. Yeah, so the total outstanding sum was like 49,000 at 7 months because the per month rental was 7K. Yeah, so and then that was like quite many years ago. I think at least 10 years ago. Yeah, so something like that happened. Wow, it's so quite crazy. But luckily the tenant in the end they still returned.
So the learning outcome I think is for tenant to pay rental promptly. But having said so, right, it's also landlord's responsibility to check
the
promptly,
rent.
on a monthly basis, because for agents we don't have access to, of course, our clients' bank accounts. So sometimes clients may come to us 2-3 months later and say, hey, the past 2 months missing rental.
Actually we won't know, and then sometimes actually it's especially for the overseas landlord, because you know sometimes we need the 2FA.
Last time there's the token,
and then I don't know whether do they really check their bank account. Right?
So I have an Indonesian client, right? They for some reason they cannot have access to internet banking one. So every time they want to check the balance, they have to call the bank,
apply for it,
or sometimes even send fax. They have to send fax over, and the bank will send a fax back to tell them what's the outstanding outstanding balance one.
That's quite.
So I think just to put into context, I think it's very important for landlords to check the renters, because the thing is that for 2 years this is 2 month deposit. If the tenant never pay 2 months, still okay. But if the tenant don't pay 2 months rental, then it eats into the deposit, and the 3rd month, 4th month they run away, right? Actually, the landlord is at a loss here.
Definitely.
So actually the key thing is that landlords really don't take things for granted. It's very important to always check for rental every month.
Because there's only so much as agents we can do. The money doesn't come into our bank account, and then we won't know. So I think the landlord also need to do their own.
And so for myself, an interesting story to share for tenancy that I've handled before is that I remember about a year ago, I actually rented this HDB, second floor HDB flat to 6 occupants.
Right.
Non-related, they are foreigners lah. I won't name the country where they are from, but it's on the 2nd floor, HDB. So what happened was that in the middle of the night, around 1-2 a.m., if I remember correctly, I received calls from one of the tenants who called me and told me that there are people entering their house by force.
As in,
by force? Yes, by force. So what happened, I'll just cut the story short, is that there was a CMB operation going on in that area. So they are trying to catch the drug offenders.
You must explain what CMB first, maybe.
Central Narcotics
Board, right?
Bureau. So there was an operation going on that night. So that left me wondering why they need to enter the unit in the first place. So after the whole thing ended like 3-4 a.m., I was still awake handling all this. What happened was that the tenant told me that one of the officers saw one of the offenders going up to the 2nd floor, and that floor level only happens to have 2 units. So they have to break in to the
But
houses.
they break into both unit, or only their unit?
I'm not sure about the other unit. I think likely they would have also accessed that unit by force, unless they open up the doors themselves voluntarily. But for my tenant, they didn't, because they are first of all foreigners, so they are very scared. They don't know what's happening. So they locked themselves in the room, kept quiet despite all the shouting going on. So ended up the officers
But
have
I'm
to.
sure the officer will say that, I'm police, and then open up your door.
Yes,
flash
they
the
do.
pass and
Yes,
all
they
that.
do. I also
that's
thought
what I
that
see
it is,
watching
but-
movies, right?
Yeah, but having understand that they are foreigners, they don't really know who are CMBs or what
Yes,
is this.
yes,
Or
yes.
they're
group
just scared lah.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're just scared. Yeah, it's a
They don't
natural
know what to
reaction
do.
during that time.
Yeah.
So end of the day,
How young or old? Like,
no, they're
are
all
the
working
tenants?
adults.
All
Yeah,
all
working adults on work
adults, ah.
passes. So end of the day, CMB officers actually have to use crowbars and to push and knock and so the tenant sent me a lot of photos of all the damaged doors and all. So everything resolved. They checked the unit. Thankfully, the no drug offenders in the unit. Yeah, they have to go through all the passes, everything. That goes back to why we need to register all the occupants properly, check all the passes and validity.
Yes.
Because all these things, for my case, is pretty rare, I would say, but it does happen. So it's important to check.
I must say it's kind of a very sway.
Yeah, so
thing,
next
right?
day, landlord is being notified. Landlord also got a shock.
Yeah.
But we managed to resolve this
Okay.
between everyone, the CMB operations, tenant, landlord. Landlord got all the doors and damages fixed.
Damages, who pay? Who pay for damages?
Landlord has to pay first end of the day, but I think
Not
we
landlord's fault somehow.
yeah. So because CMB they actually told us it's actually an operation that they're going on. They can't wait for anything.
True.
They can't wait any longer. They have
Yeah.
they have to access the unit because
Right.
they got a tip off that somebody went up to the
Right.
second floor. So yeah,
And then
that's
I
what.
think also not the tenant's fault.
Yeah, definitely not the tenants. They are just.
Okay, lah, maybe the only fault is like they didn't open the door.
Yeah.
But I mean, people at that situation also hard to say.
Yeah.
Whether will they open or
Yeah,
not.
yeah,
lah.
correct.
Will you
Okay
open
lah.
the door?
Okay,
Honestly,
if
if it happens to you.
no, if it's like Singapore, then I think can. Why not? I mean, you have nothing, I mean, you're not doing anything wrong, then why not?
First,
You
the
should.
officers have to identify themselves.
If the officer really identify themselves, show you the passes, I think you should, right?
No, I think, okay, the interesting thing is this. I think maybe the police, they were shouting, I'm not police. Maybe they started
CMB.
CMB. What
yeah,
CMB?
yeah, everything is in
Tenants,
I will
the tenant not
I will
not
have
Singaporean.
visualized that during that whole thing, everything was very loud, noisy.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can't really hear who's talking about what.
Okay, I
So-
need to
And
watch
someone
more
is
crime
sleeping.
watch.
I think you said late
Yeah,
night,
yeah,
right?
they
don't
were
know
already
what's
sleeping already.
happening.
So
Like, army turn out.
yeah, correct. So this is one of the stories that I share during the course of
So I think
tenancy.
also the same thing here. I mean, I think the learning outcome for these interesting stories is that, once again, if you have an experienced agent out there to be managing this thing for you and someone who actually sticks with you throughout the lease, anything happen, the landlord will just have an agent to ask.
True.
As compared to someone who is not around doing the lease, then the landlord has to manage these things without any experience. So I think this is for landlords out there, once again, that engaging the right agent who have experience in renters in the industry is actually very important.
Yeah, so actually a lot of things may happen during the tenancy.
Yeah, correct.
And at the end of the tenancy, when we want to take over the unit back from the tenant, okay? So what are the things to look out for? Will you also go through like the condition and everything?
Yes, if we were to go through the whole course of tenancy, I think yes, we need to do a proper handover, even a pre-inspection before we actually take over the unit, to check through the unit, make sure all the defects are being done. If not, we have to get it sorted out between the tenant and the landlord.
Yeah.
So I think, like we mentioned earlier, it's very good to maintain good relationship, especially between landlords and also tenants, because when you have good relationship with your tenants, I think during, let's say the tenants are not going to renew their lease, and 2 months before, usually in the contract, we have to start looking for tenants. You have good relationship with the tenants, it's also easier for you to arrange viewings with them, for you to conduct viewings for prospective tenants, new tenants to come in. And also, I think the whole thing can be managed in a more better way, in a more better way, that
Definitely.
everybody is very approachable and they are able to resolve any issues very quickly.
So just to add on what Benny just mentioned just now, right? I think checking on the house is very important, and having a pre-inspection, because there's a lot of tenants, right? Actually, they don't prepare the house for handing over. Taking over, let's be taking
Units
over, because
unclean, things not done.
right, because as landlords, we hand over the unit to you in good condition. That means all repair works done, aircon service, curtains clean, unit professionally clean. So the tenants have to do the same, of which the agent has to actually obtain receipts of this, because it's important to hand this to the new tenant to let them know it's done. But the key thing I really realized is about checking the house. So that's checking the house is very important because you don't want these issues, right, to be borne by the landlord for the new tenant. So what do I mean? Like checking heaters are working, lights are fused, appliances that are working fine, any defects, things like this. So an agent coming to play here is very important to actually check through the house to make sure that the house is written in a good condition, to claim the tenant if needed, to have deductions, and these things will be prepared accordingly for the new tenant also.
So actually that is also where why the condition report is very important. When we first hand over the unit to the tenant, we did a condition report, right? So when we take over the unit, we also need to go through like what are the defects that already happened since day one. So the condition report is very important.
Correct.
Yeah. So actually for this take over from the tenant, right? So after going through all these, when there's any dispute, so actually by right there will be another like a report that we sign like what sign off, what are the defects, and after whatever sign, then actually both landlord and tenant will just go according to the report.
This is a very, very common issue.
Yes.
A common issue that and I think it lies with the agent to manage the expectation of both parties, because the key thing is that when the tenant step out of the house, the tenant is not responsible for the issues in the house already. So it happened to one of my landlord, right? Okay, interesting thing. He's my landlord, so he has trusted me with renting out his properties for many years already. But recently he became a tenant on his own.
All right.
So he didn't engage my services. So there was this case, right, that actually when he left the house, right, the landlord actually gave him a $2,000 plus bill of items that he didn't aware. Mainly because he didn't sign off during the day.
There's no sign off. He didn't sign off.
He was not aware about all these things because as a landlord's agent back then, I managed everything for him. But he went to rent a property just like interim because his house was doing reno. He think that Jason, it's okay, I won't bother you with these things. But in the end, he has been calling me recently to actually tell me about all these things and asking me how to resolve this issue. So of all the issues, I think a sign off is very important because it's for you to identify what are the issues before you step out of the house. Because the fact is that when you step out of the house, it's really unfair to claim things from the tenant already.
So actually, like this also happened to one of the case that I did. Okay, so actually I represent a tenant. So some of the things already agreed already, but the landlord like still charged it. The landlord added in more things, more items, and the landlord charged like full sum of it. That means like let's say, for example, let's say the fridge spoil. So, but then buy new fridge. Yes, exactly. Then they charge like $1,000 on the fridge, $1,000 on the scratches on the floor and everything else. So everything they almost like a full rental charge to the tenant. So actually this one went on, and in the end we tried to discuss and mediate with the landlord, but actually landlord doesn't want to hear from us.
Then what's the outcome?
Small claim in the end the tenant small claim the landlord.
Who win?
Okay, so actually based on my past experience, after a few cases like that, right, I realized actually small claim court kind of favors the tenant a bit more. Why so? Because actually first of all, actually agent cannot attend the small claim court. Agent is only there to give the moral support, to be the cheerleader outside only. Really. So we can't even step into the room.
Yeah, correct. That's true.
So only the landlord and tenant will go into the room. But what the tenant shared with me is that during the discussion, so the mediator or so-called or the judge what he said is that the house is not brand new. So the landlord cannot charge the full sum to the tenant because this is not brand new. There's already it's an old house and all. So that actually make me realize one thing is that sometimes for other landlords that you cannot charge 100%. You cannot expect this to be a brand new house, everything new from the tenant.
That's true.
So in the end the tenant got back most of his deposit. Initially it was $0. Then in the end he still got back I think 5,000 to 6,000.
So very worth it for him to go to small claims.
Small claim.
Correct,
So
although the process of going to small claims is troublesome. Because the tenant has to go and apply. And furthermore, if the tenant has been flew back to his own country, he has to make a trip back. But the matter of fact is that sometimes when you attend a small claim, the tenant will, as you said, generally they will win or have a much more fairer case.
Yes.
That goes back to everything that we are actually discussing about. As much as possible, we try to minimize issues, disputes, without having the need to go to small claims. Everything, the rental is done in a very nice, professional way, handed over in a nice way, ready for landlord to rent out to the next tenant, or even to take over the unit, or even to sell the unit.
Yeah.
So today is definitely a very interesting topic that we talk about with the rental part. We actually discuss about from start to finish, the viewing stage, the signing of document stage, what to check out, what to check on, and also during the course of tenancy, what actually happened and what we have actually encountered. Okay, we hope you enjoyed this topic that we have discussed today on rental. So if you like what we are doing, do like and subscribe to our channel. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.